Here's a question. Should Magic Kingdom's Space Mountain be scrapped? Demolished? No, I'm not talking about the building, but instead the ride track. It's an old, rickety, and outdated track that seems to barely hold up at times. Tomorrowland is, after all, getting another roller coaster, so why keep Space Mountain around? Let's take a look at Space Mountain itself, and see why the introduction of Tron to Magic Kingdom could potentially change the future of this attraction. Space Mountain at the Magic Kingdom shares a close relationship with the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland. The Matterhorn was manufactured by Aero Development and opened at Disneyland in 1959. Often cited as the first tubular steel roller coaster, it was definitely the first of its kind and extremely innovative for the time. What a lot of people misinterpret about this fact, though, is that it often seems to be conflated as the first steel coaster, which is definitely not true. People seem to assume that everything prior to the Matterhorn was constructed out of wood, and while it was by far the most popular material for quite a while, steel coasters have existed almost since the actual invention of the coaster itself. You can see here Montaña Suiza, which operates at Monteagudo Amusement Park in Spain. Having opened in 1928, it is the oldest steel coaster still in operation. If you take notice of its track though, you can see the support structure is made of concrete, and the rails that guide the track are rather basic. It's quite the unique attraction and has a really incredible view, but let's contrast it with something else. Fast forward to 1952, and we have Little Dipper, a kiddie coaster developed and manufactured by the Allen Herschel Company, and it resides today in Memphis Kiddie Park in Brooklyn, Ohio. If you take notice of the track, it's definitely a steel structure and track, but is designed almost like a railroad track with steel ties, which isn't something you often see today. This type of support structure can only handle minimal forces, which is why you never see any large coaster designed in this way, but if you look to the kiddie coasters manufactured by the family-owned E&F Miller Industries today, you can see how they emulate the original Little Dipper in track design and layout. Looking at the scale of the Matterhorn bobsleds, you can see how innovative the invention of the tubular steel track was for its time. Not only was the Matterhorn the first attraction to utilize an electronic dispatch, allowing for multiple vehicles to be on the track simultaneously, but the actual support structure of the coaster allowed it to be on the scale it is. The idea for the Matterhorn started in an underused area of Disneyland called Holiday Hill. Walt Disney had originally wanted to turn the hill into a toboggan sledding attraction, much to the dismay of Disneyland construction chief Joe Fowler due to the logistical nightmare such an attraction would bring. However, with the rising popularity of the Wild Mouse coaster, an adaptation of toboggans in a coaster form began to take shape, with Walt Disney being inspired by the actual Matterhorn mountain itself when visiting Switzerland. The attraction you see today opened in 1959. While certainly not an actual Wild Mouse, the tight dips and turns of the Matterhorn are very much inspired by these coasters. The Matterhorn is a weird piece of history. It's certainly a milestone for the coaster industry, but it's lodged between the old wooden coasters that defined the first half of the 20th century and the new steel coasters that emerged in the 1970s. The first modern steel coaster was also developed by Aero, and the prototype, known as Corkscrew, was bought and premiered at Knott's Berry Farm in 1975. You can immediately see the differences between it and the Matterhorn. The larger track and support structure not only allowed for inversions, but even the turns on the track were banked to allow for a less jarring experience. If you take a look at the Matterhorn, even today after multiple updates, you can still see how rough and jarring it is because of its outdated design. Even taking a look at the uncovered track, the support structure doesn't look remotely like anything you would see post-Corkscrew. It's a unique attraction that serves almost as a museum piece. Stuck between the age of wood and steel, the Matterhorn bobsleds, despite running rough today, have the merit of being historical in nature and design. So what then was the next step after the Matterhorn? While completely different on the surface and in theme, Space Mountain is definitely the spiritual successor to the Matterhorn bobsleds. The original conception of the attraction was quite similar, in that the coaster track would weave in and out of the building. Space Mountain wasn't built in Disneyland before Walt's death, however, because this new and complex coaster with 4 separate tracks required computer technology that was not yet up to speed to operate safely. Instead, the first iteration of Space Mountain would open in 1975 at the Magic Kingdom with 2 indoor tracks and would utilize a never-before-seen computer system to track vehicles. Taking a look at the track and support structure with the lights on, you can definitely see how it follows the Matterhorn. The support structure almost reminds me of a wooden coaster, and while the track has definitely been modified since opening, its early non-banked turns were reportedly causing injuries and even breaking bones. If you've been on it, you know it's quite the rough experience. The darkness doesn't really allow you to anticipate the unbanked turns and painful sudden drops, while also causing you to fear for your life as you encounter head chopper after head chopper in the dark as you can barely make out support structures above your head. The whole thing feels rickety, and every single time you go up the lift hill, without fail, it suddenly stops and immediately resumes, allowing you to fall back a click and suddenly lurching you forward again. Another potential safety hazard is the low ceiling of both the Superspace and Wormhole tunnels, which I've always been tempted to touch because I'm absolutely sure that I could if I really wanted to, but I'm afraid of losing a hand. For those of you who don't know, a cascade is an industry term where vehicles can stop in places they aren't supposed to or longer than they're supposed to because of a delay in dispatches. On a roller coaster with multiple vehicles in the ride track at once, which is almost the industry norm today, coasters employ block break zones, which allow vehicles to be stopped at safe distances from each other in case of a fault or e-stop. This is where Space Mountain's innovative for the time computers come in, allowing all the vehicles to be tracked simultaneously and allowing the ride to have such a high capacity. That being said, if a vehicle couldn't be dispatched quickly enough, the ride would cascade and all the vehicles would stop in their designated block break zones. While Space Mountain has certainly been updated over the years and continues to cascade less and less, when it does, another dated aspect of the ride comes to light. The cast members quite literally have to come up and push the ride vehicles down the ride track with guests on board. While a coveted religious experience for the many Disney park fans hoping to experience this, I think the ride's method of recovering from a cascade is definitely a bit sketchy. So, what can we take away from all of this? Well, in my opinion, Space Mountain is absolutely the most thrilling attraction on Disney property. Forget the launch and inversions of Rock and Roller Coaster or the intense G-forces that hammer you in Mission Space. Space Mountain offers a thrill that absolutely no other Disney attraction can: the seeming lack of safety. You can't help but wonder if the ride vehicle will fly off the track while you're on it, or that the ride track itself won't just, suddenly collapse. If you're tall like me, or even if you're not, you very possibly feel a sense of alarm flying under the rickety supports, hoping that you won't be decapitated in the process. Don't even think about putting your hands up, because you might just lose one. So, that begs the question: should Disney demolish Space Mountain? Is it that time? With Tron Light Cycle Power Run being constructed at Magic Kingdom, it's only a matter of time until Tomorrowland has 2 coasters. Tron will be a brand new experience for the park, with a much smoother track and will be significantly more reliable. So, once it opens, I think that Disney should demolish the Space Mountain ride track. And completely refurbish it. Are you crazy? Do you think that I would advocate for destroying one of the most iconic attractions to ever grace a Disney park? No, I don't think so. When Disneyland Space Mountain followed the Magic Kingdom version in 1977, it premiered with a completely different ride track. While Magic Kingdom Space Mountain had 2 dual tracks that mirror each other, Disneyland's track had only one to accommodate the limited space in the park and subsequently the smaller mountain structure. Currently, Disneyland Space Mountain has ride vehicles that allow passengers to sit side by side and contain speakers for a soundtrack produced by Michael Giacchino that syncs with the layout of the ride. The track is far smoother and therefore feels much faster than Magic Kingdom, and the excellent projection effects and musical score create an exciting and epic experience. The updated projection and musical technology of the attraction also allows for overlays. Disneyland Space Mountain is capable of turning into Space Mountain Ghost Galaxy for the Halloween season, or Hyperspace Mountain to promote Star Wars. While the vanilla Space Mountain generally seems to be considered the best, at least the attraction is able to provide a bit of variety. Compare this to Magic Kingdom Space Mountain just turning the lights off for the Halloween parties. I mean, what even is that? Knowing that this thing is on the verge of collapse, I guess doing it in total darkness also amps up the scare factor. With that though, Disneyland Space Mountain isn't without its problems. In 2003, the attraction was suddenly closed due to the structural integrity of the ride track being compromised, and reopens in 2005 with an almost completely replaced track. I don't believe that the ride layout was changed in any significant way, but this seems like the perfect solution for the Magic Kingdom Space Mountain, does it not? Well, think about this. Once Tron opens, it will essentially stand in place for Space Mountain as the e-ticket of Tomorrowland. Being able to satisfy that roller coaster craving, Disney could potentially close Space Mountain and scrap the track to replace it with something completely new. I'm not saying that it should be a single track like in Disneyland, but a new layout that is both more comfortable and thrilling could really allow the attraction to be updated for the 21st century. Along with this could come a synchronized musical score and new projection effects. This would also allow Space Mountain to switch over to overlays, specifically for both the Halloween and Christmas parties. It just simply makes sense from the perspective of keeping the Disney parks updated for contemporary audiences. After all, Walt Disney himself said the Disneyland Park would never be completed, and people often defend new attractions replacing old classic ones with, well, Disneyland isn't a museum. Yeah, I actually hate this line of thinking, and I'm quite sure that I could produce an entire video about how people completely misunderstand Walt's intentions behind it. People seem to forget that Disneyland quite literally opened looking like a construction lot, with a lot of room to expand. So let me lay out my actual opinion on whether the ride track should be completely redone or not. My opinion is that there are a lot of pros and cons to both. People often talk about walking into Pirates of the Caribbean and smelling the chemically treated bromine water, or riding Spaceship Earth and feeling nostalgic about the campfire smell of the burning of the Library of Alexandria. But what no one really seems to talk about, but I'm sure that they can relate to, is the smell of Space Mountain. There's just something about walking into it, hearing the music, and being enveloped with the nostalgic smell of 1975. I don't really know what the smell is, but a number of attractions at Magic Kingdom and even Epcot seem to share this distinctive musk, undoubtedly caused by decades of swampy Florida weather. Not only did the design of the queue and building invoke a sense of 1970s nostalgia, but even the post-ride scenes seem to as well, even if they've been updated. Stepping into Space Mountain feels immersive through its heavy sense of nostalgic atmosphere. Yes, it's quite outdated, but that's part of the charm. That also extends to the ride track as well. As I've already discussed, it's a rickety death trap, but like the Matterhorn bobsleds, stands as a piece of history. Space Mountain joins the Matterhorn in being that special but rare and unique style of coaster, bridging the ages of wood and steel. Yes, it does feel outdated, but that's part of the charm of Disney parks. For all the nostalgia that the parks are meant to employ, maintaining your classic attractions only helps in that regard. That's not to say that updating it wouldn't be fantastic, as it would keep things quite fresh, but it's difficult to really make the case one way or the other. I do find the ride track as it is now quite nostalgic and thrilling, but I wouldn't be upset if it was torn down and replaced with something contemporary, because you know that it would probably be a fantastic experience. A new updated and synchronized soundtrack for the vehicles would be incredible, but I also enjoy hearing the current speakers in the middle of the track really struggle to reach their audience. So really, I can't decide on what the better decision would be. I think I made the case for both keeping the current track and also updating it. It's a difficult decision, but one where I would be happy with both outcomes. That being said, I would be extremely interested in hearing what you, my viewers, have to say on this topic. Do you think that the track for Magic Kingdom Space Mountain should be demolished and replaced with something more current? Or do you prefer the sketchy but thrilling historical ride that you can experience today? As always, I would be interested in what you have to say about this down in the comments. If you enjoyed this type of theme park content and discussion, I do highly encourage you to hit the like button on the video so that we can reach a wider audience. It would also be helpful if you hit the subscribe button and bell notification so that you can be alerted when new content is released.